WWE Draft take place for the second, I believe, consecutive year at the same time. They've bounced around in previous years. They kind of did it whenever they wanted to, and they've really tinkered with the format. So this year, much like last year, they kind of gave you a pool of wrestlers so you knew who was being chosen on that night. And honestly, like, it took away a lot of the shock factor for me. So, round this thing up, man. How did you feel about this entire WWE Draft, this 2-night episode?
I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of taking some of the strengths and weaknesses of each shows and kind of working with it. I know what they did was they took storylines from Raw and just moved them to SmackDown and vice versa. And yeah, it's like, okay, how are you going to get anything new about it? But now you get different aspects to it. Like somebody said on Twitter about Ray and Dominic going to SmackDown, and someone mentioned Corbin. And I mean, I chimed in. I was like, tell me in a month from now, you can't picture Corbin totally mocking Dominic, like, oh, who'd you ever be? What dues have you ever paid? And stuff like that. And there you go. You segue from Rollins Mysterio to maybe Mysterio Corbin, late fall, early winter, whatever, and so on. I mean, the same thing on Raw. I think on Raw, you're going to get more of the in-ring stuff. If you looked at the guys that got moved there, for the most part, your Hardy, your Riddle, your AJ, guys like that. The women, I mean, SmackDown, Jesus Christ, SmackDown loaded up quietly at the end last night. They picked up Tamina, they picked up Zelina Vega, Bayley, Sasha, Bianca Belair. I think they got Natalya too. I think Lana's staying on Raw and Natalya is going to SmackDown. I think that's how it is. So,
I missed it, bro. I missed it. I don't know. I should probably bring them up, man, because honestly, like, whatever doesn't happen on Monday Night Raw, if they do something after it, it's kind of pointless because they're kind of just saying, hey, here's these other wrestlers. We don't really care about them.
What they're trying to do, to their credit, they're trying to do is, I'll give you 95% of it on Raw and SmackDown. But hey, we've got this Talking Smack show on the network. We've got Raw Tour on the network. So we're going to leave 10 people undrafted, and you're going to tune into those shows to see where they go. Like they did that with the Tucker move, Carrillo, guys like that. So I get why they did what they're doing with that. I mean, listen, you need a hook. As I'm not saying it's the strongest hook in the world, but you need a hook at the end of the day. So I mean, listen, you know what? You got to get through Hell in a Cell. Once you get past Hell in a Cell, then we'll see where most of it. I don't think much is going to change on top. I think Roman's going to still do whatever he was going to do, whether it be with Uso or someone else with Roman. I think Drew and Orton are going to do their thing. It's what you do. It's what becomes of the 1B and under stuff. Bayley's still going to be tied to Sasha. I think Asuka is going to be whatever. I think Asuka's opponent for Hell in a Cell will come after the Lana match on Monday. I mean, the tag teams, they probably should have merged them together because I just feel like you're getting the same matches just on different shows now. You're going to get New Day with Jesus Christ, I don't even know who the tag teams are anymore, but you're going to get Rude and Ziggler challenging the Street Profits on SmackDown. That was all set to be your Raw tag team title feud the minute Rude returned 2 weeks ago. So you're going to get some repetitiveness, but I would say give it like a couple of weeks after Hell in a Cell, and then we'll see how this shakes out. Probably post Survivor Series, because then you're going to get the brand stuff for Survivor Series. And then once you get past that, then we'll see how this works out and who ends up going back and who all of a sudden becomes a free agent, 6 weeks after. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I think they did the right thing last night for the most part. I don't have anybody where I'm like, oh, my God, I can't believe they moved so-and-so to that show. The one thing that I do like, I want to close with this. Everybody's complaining about the New Day thing. And let me tell you something. It's red pill, blue pill. Red pill, you keep New Day together. Blue pill, you get the Big E push that you wanted. Which one do you want? That was one of the things that kind of hindered Kofi, is that while Kofi was champion, he was still tied to those guys. Let Big E really do this thing on his own, and let's see where he is. He's my pick to win the 2021 Royal Rumble and challenge Roman at Mania.
I like it. Toph, what do you got to say about the draft, brother?
The less I say about WWE, the better. I'll let you guys handle that.
Cool. Dude, I'm down with that. The one good thing I'm going to say about the draft is it did mix up the rosters a little bit, so we're going to see some fresh rivalries. The thing I hated the most was the fact that they told you who was going to be drafted.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, here's our depth chart, okay? Look at who is number 1 through 10. These are the 10 wrestlers that mean the most for that show. And say if you combine like the 2 nights and just say that's the way the draft goes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like make 1 on night 2, 2, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like the overall draft. You would see who the top wrestlers are and who is left over to the wayside. The one big story coming out of is Andrade Cien Almas was not drafted, which is strange to me. I don't understand why he wasn't. I'm not sure if Angel Garza was. I think I have a list here.
Garza was drafted to Raw.
Almas was not drafted.
No,
which is very odd. So who knows what his future is?
But the early word is him and Mickey James are the last two that weren't drafted, and the early word is, according to Mike Johnson, is they're going to go back to Raw.
Boom.
There's a bogus story out there that supposedly someone claims Vince basically said he doesn't give a shit about Andre. That's bullshit, because when Andrade went to Vince and said, "What can I do?" Vince told him, you need to learn English, and that's why Andrade's English is picked up, because he went to Vince and asked him. Say what you will about Vince. The old man is completely batshit crazy and senile at times. But if Vince is going to tell you to do A, he's not going to motherfuck you and be like, haha, no, I told you A, but I really wanted you to do B.
Bro,
Vince is not that guy.
He lost to Garza in 2 minutes. Of course he doesn't give a shit about Andrade.
I don't know about that.
And you know what? You know how Andrade –
2 minutes.
This is how Andrade –
and he lost in 2 minutes, and you want to tell me he actually cares about him? Come on.
Yeah, but then you know what? They actually put him back with Vega, and it looks like now they might end up being the first. I mean, granted they're going to get fed, but it looks like they're going to be the first feud, even though I don't know how they're going to do it with Vega on SmackDown now. But it looks like they're going to be the first feud for Bliss and the Fiend.
It's pretty clear where he's at on the priority poll, which is low.
Oh, I'm not saying he's main eventing, Chris. I'm not saying that at all. But this report that Vince doesn't give two shits about, that Ringside News of all places put out today, I don't know if I'm buying that.
Well, we don't need a report. All we got to do is just use our common sense, and the common sense is that English is not good. And
yeah, but you know what though? You got to remember he's got the right wife right now and the right father-in-law.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that's why he knows English, because Charlotte's like, oh, Poppy. And she's like talking to him. She's like, oh, fuck me, Poppy, you know? So that's what,
in that monotone shows.
That's how he knows English. On that note, let's fucking pivot to All Elite Wrestling, which I got to say, like, I think they've blown everyone's mind with just how good they've been so quickly. I know, of course, they have their hiccups as far as, creative is concerned. I know how John feels about Cody fucking Rhodes, and all this stuff. Like, they've had some hiccups, but they're trying stuff. They're throwing some shit against the wall, seeing if it sticks from time to time. And I think overall, this first year has been freaking awesome for Dynamite. Like, I haven't missed an episode for the majority of it. I've watched it live from start to finish. Instead of NXT in the beginning, I was flipping back and forth, but then it just got to be too much of that channel switching stuff. But at the end of the day, I think they've done great. I think they're probably far ahead of their expectations. So let's start with Toph on this one, since we're All Elite right now, Toph. Bro, we got the Dynamite. What is it? 1 year anniversary coming up tomorrow. I'm probably going to post this hopefully tonight, so you'll be able to, if you're listening before the fact, badass. If not, all good. This is a fucking time capsule. Anyway, Toph, let's start with you, bro. What do you think about 1 year of Dynamite, man?
Good. Very good. I can say a lot of positive things about them, but I'll just keep it short because I'm sure you guys have a lot more. If you were to say what's the most positive thing about AEW, it's actually a very simple thing that people don't talk about on Twitter enough, which is it is a 2-hour wrestling show that does not insult your intelligence. Let that sink in.
You're right, bro. You're right. It got back to basics in a lot of fucking ways. Got back to basics. It became a pro wrestling show.
There is a period in time where, like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before social media, before Netflix and Hulu, where people would do the pay-per-view parties, everybody chips in $10, everyone buys some pizza, some beer, and you watch WrestleMania, SummerSlam, stuff like that.
Nitro party.
Yeah, and, those days died because of the WWE Network and because, staff. But one of the main reasons they died is it got to the point where I have many friends, I know you guys do too, I have many friends who stopped watching WWE pay-per-views with their friends because the storylines, the results, and the outcomes would be kind of insulting to your intelligence. It's kind of like consume, don't ask any questions. And the thing, there's really like two things I've noticed. Like the most positive things I've noticed about AEW is the few times they do something that legitimately doesn't work, they change it, or they change something about it within like a week and a half. So it's like when the Dark Order first started and it wasn't working, they focused more on the Exalted One and the segments about who the Exalted One was, and then that was working. Or when they were doing the Nightmare Collective with Brandy and that wasn't working, and they just killed it. Or when they were doing the Orange Cassidy stuff and people were like, oh man, like what did they overuse it too much? And they were just doing it like in small doses. Like the one I remember the most was when the Young Bucks were fighting Ortiz and Santana, and there was like a random door and Cassidy's just there and they closed the door. Like that was funny. So it's like little random stuff. But the main thing they do that I think is really cool, I think is what's really got a lot of the older demographic. When I mean older, I mean like, you know, people in their 20s, 30s and stuff like that. I've gone on Twitter and I've seen people say like the rankings are inconsistent sometimes. Like as an example, like Big Swole is number 2 in the rankings. You got Nyla's number 1 in the rankings, but Swole's fighting Sheeta tomorrow and not Nyla. So like people are saying, shouldn't Nyla fight Sheeta? So yeah, the rankings are inconsistent. However, the thing that AEW does do is, you know, when they first started, Tony Khan was saying that it's going to be like more sports oriented, and people are like, oh, I don't really feel like it's sports oriented. I really feel like it's more sports entertainment. I've seen some folks say it feels more like WWE with a different coat of paint and stuff like that. Well, see, the thing that AEW does, and this is like the main positive right here that no one ever talks about, is yes, the rankings are inconsistent, but so far from day one, every single person that has challenged for a title has made sense because they have the win-loss record to support it. Every single person that's challenged for the AEW title, the TNT title, the AEW tag titles, the AEW Women's Championship title has been in the top 5. They've been number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And if you weren't in the top 5, you won some type of battle royale or something to give you an automatic title shot. Like we're going to be getting a tournament soon, right? An 8-man tournament, and whoever wins that tournament is going to get a title shot in a future date. So it's like every title opportunity they've done has made sense. Now, compare that to WWE. Like, look at Drew McIntyre, right? Like, earlier in the summer, Drew McIntyre was having a feud with Dolph Ziggler. Why? Because it's the summer, and we got to kill time. What has Ziggler done? Who has he beaten? Nobody. He's a jobber. But we're going to give him a title shot. How many times have you watched WWE and you see someone just does nothing for months, and all of a sudden they get a title shot? Who did you do? Who did you beat to deserve it? We just saw it last night. Lana just won a battle royal. She's done fuck all for months, and she's getting a title shot. How many times?
Yeah, but hang on a second, Chris. Hang on a second.
I'm almost finished. This is my last part.
Okay.
How many times have you seen a pay-per-view, right, where one champion wins, right, and then the very next Raw, SmackDown, you see a rematch of the match you just saw, 50-50 booking? You don't get any of that. How many times have you watched AEW and you see a DQ or a count out or some bullshit finish? You don't get any of that. You get a definitive finish every single time. So you don't get any bullshit. So what I'm trying to say is AEW, regardless of how you feel about it, it doesn't insult your intelligence as a wrestling fan. And that's the main positive about it. So I see some folks talking about, oh, the in-ring, the stories. Like, nah, man. When people watch a wrestling show with their friends, they just want to watch a wrestling show, have fun, and just not feel like their IQ is being insulted. That's really the main positive about it. And not enough people are talking about that. That's the most positive thing I can say about AEW. NXT, you don't get that. I'll give that to NXT. They don't insult your intelligence for the most part. It's pretty clean. Raw and SmackDown, though, absolutely not. Raw and SmackDown is shut your brain off, enjoy it, don't ask questions. Wait a minute, so NXT is a brand because Charlotte won the Royal Rumble, so you can challenge for an NXT championship. Okay, NXT was part of Survivor Series last year. It's on USA, so they've established it as a brand, but it's not part of the draft. So it's a brand when you want it to be, but it's a brand when it's not convenient for your narrative. They just keep changing the rules. It's insulting to your intelligence. Wait a minute. If Otis is Money in the Bank, why are we giving him Money in the Bank if we're not doing anything with it? They're trying to find a way to get the Money in the Bank off of him because they don't know what to do with him. Don't ask any questions. Just go with it. Wait, why did we put Mandy and Otis? Why did we do this 6-month-long story and just break it up? Because we don't know what to do. We're going to break them up. Don't ask any questions. Cut your brain off. Do you see the pattern here? WWE is like that. Cut your brain off. Don't ask any questions. Consume, 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 consume. You don't get any of that with AEW. You don't.
Boom. John, go ahead. You had something on. You
Well,
had something on Lana. I made a note here.
yeah. The only thing is that you can't sit there and say, well, even if you're not in the top 5, you win a tournament, you win a gauntlet, you win a battle royal. That's how you get a title shot, and then criticize WWE doing the same thing last night with Lana. Well, granted, she wouldn't be a top 5 contender, but she went in that battle royal and she won it as a heel would. She snuck around and then picked her spot. You can't praise that for one and then kill it for the other. 95% of what you said, Chris, I agree with you 100% on. But that especially, you can't pick and choose when that applies.
All right. Well, look, I think Lana winning that battle royal was something that was given to her because she's taken 4 straight power bomb, or what were they, Samoan drops through the table by Nia Jax. I was hoping that they would do that for a year. Last night I was thinking, like, why don't they just do it every week all year and just troll both of them? That would be funny, but they didn't go that direction. But Toph, amazing points on AEW. I even made a note here. I'm going to actually cut out your little clip and post that on its own because you made some freaking phenomenal points. You're right, dude. You're fucking right. Even NXT is insulting our intelligence lately with stupid ass stereotypical WWE storylines. Look, man, I love the Road Dogg. He's my buddy, but what the fuck are you doing with this comedy? Look, I get it if Vince says, hey, Road Dogg, hey, man, I need you to write some comedy for this show, then your hands are tied. You can only push back on that so much. Well, Vince, this might not be a good idea. This brand isn't really about comedy. But look, at the end of the day, that guy, Vince McMahon, calls the shots. So if he wants Robert Stone comedy, peeing himself or whatever he was doing, throwing up all over himself, breaking his ankle every week, if he wants to have Drake Maverick and Killian Dane act like another strange bedfellows kind of fucking tag team that WWE has done a million times, like, it's just old hat. It's the same old shit. The second that AEW puts one of those strange bedfellows tag teams together, I will call them out for it too. But they haven't done that yet because they're actually abiding by many of the fundamental professional wrestling principles. So look, man, a year into AEW Dynamite, I am freaking pumped. I think year 2 is going to be better than year 1. We're going to see a lot of different storyline changes. But I really am nervous about some of the comedy that's happening in the wrestling business overall. I just want to touch on this for a minute before we pivot to more of the controversial shit. This is going to be like a good segue to who we're going to talk about in a minute.
Before you go into comedy, could I mention one thing about NXT?
Boom, please.
I think as we're getting to the 1-year anniversary, I think it's pretty apparent now what NXT needs to do is they need to revert back to the mentality. I know they've gone through some bad luck with some injuries lately. That sucks. It happens to every promotion at some point. But as we go into year 2 of this AEW NXT war, I think NXT needs to go back to the mentality they had in 2017, 2018, and early 2019, where they're just doing their own thing. They're not worried about anybody else. Just focus, do your thing, build your brand. The main criticism about NXT is, and I think we can all be in agreement here, is that the in-ring is still good. The takeovers are still good. But like the NXT TV, it's like they, for the most part, have been counter-promoting what AEW does. And it doesn't work most of the time. Like the 2 examples I remember was when, like, okay, y'all remember like when Cody had the cage match against Wardlow, right? Sure. When AEW did the cage match of Cody and Wardlow, they had built that up for weeks, like a month in advance. And then NXT did this one episode. I don't remember which one. It was like a double cage episode where it was like, I think Velveteen and Roddy and Dakota and somebody else.
Tegan Knox.
Yeah, it was like a double cage, and that was like a 1-week build. And I was like, what? And then when they did Kenny Omega versus Pac and the Iron Man, they built that up for like 3 weeks. And NXT, like when they do like the Great American Bash, like that's different because they did build that up. It's just I've noticed that they just fast track stuff. Like at the end of the day, like regardless of putting my own feelings aside about Karrion Kross, the confusing thing about Keith Lee was they clearly fast tracked it. But they put the 2 titles on Keith, and then they gave up his North American title, and it's like, he had both belts for like 1 week, and then he sacrificed the other belt the following week. And it was like, wait, what? Like, it was very clear there was no plan. Like, they did that just to pop a rating. And then they just sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, there was no real plan.
Well, no. See, there could have been a plan. The problem is you didn't need to, and I mean, this is obviously the injury kills all this.
Yeah.
There was no need to take the belt off Lee with the first Cross match and move Lee up to Raw. That Cross Lee feud was built to go 2 or 3 takeovers, and then you could have had like the finality. Even if you didn't do it in a takeover, even if you wanted to do it on a big NXT special, you could have done it. The fact that they just did it on the first match, that's what killed it. If they would have went 2 or 3 matches, like the first match should have been just them destroying each other to a non-finish. I know that would have stuffed and it would have pissed people off, but if you really think about where the story could have gone from that these guys just brutalized the hell out of each other to the point where it was a double countdown, double knockout, whatever. And then did another match that had a screwy finish. And then you know what you could have done? Since you're not doing War Games this year, obviously at the Performance Center, why not do Lee Cross Hell in the Cell, first time ever in NXT? That could have been like your third match blow-off, maybe in November or December, and then that could have dragged you through. Instead, they, for whatever reason, they felt they had to do this change, and you knew Cross was hurt. They knew Cross was hurt. That takeover Saturday, they knew Cross was hurt Sunday. You could have pulled those promos from SummerSlam that Lee was going to be on Raw Monday night. You could have put Lee back in NXT and then done something else with it. That's where they screwed up. Not the fact that they went right to the feud, although I agree they could have done something else with Cross, given Lee another challenger maybe for one takeover and maybe one episode of NXT and then bring the two of them together. But, for whatever reason they did. That's where they screwed up, was putting the title on Cross right away.
Yeah, dude, I think I just muted you, Toph. If you want to unmute yourself, my bad. It's like not letting me unmute you. But, dude, you're right. And from what I gather is they had no idea they were losing Keith Lee. It was kind of a last-minute thing, and Vince wanted him up on Raw, and that was really it. They had to really pivot and change directions. And between that and the Karrion Kross injury, they kind of just had to go to something, old like Finn Balor. No offense to Finn Balor. He's awesome, as we saw him wrestle Kyle O'Reilly in a fucking badass match. But let's see here. Looks like, yeah. Okay, so Zoom is actually giving us some more time, so that's dope. Okay, great. All right. So I want to pivot, guys. And look, again, this is the first episode, so if you're watching this, it might be a little bit clunky. But we got ring rust, baby. I haven't done this in a while. John, Toph, they don't do this too often, so we're going to just kind of go through the motions here and talk about the topics that I had in mind. Other weeks, we're going to have more free-flowing conversations. We're going to talk about other shit outside the scope of wrestling. I want to talk about politics since we're going up against this crazy election coming up. I want to talk about COVID-19. I want to touch on that a little bit later in this episode and talk about how that relates to the wrestling industry. I want to talk about some other serious shit. How about like money? How about music? How about Hollywood? How about everything? Let's talk about it all. But mostly wrestling, all right? Bottom line, mostly wrestling, because that's what we know. But speaking of that, we just had a crazy weekend in wrestling that a lot of people didn't really pay attention to because it was more on the indie levels. Wasn't a WWE thing, wasn't an AEW thing. This was like an indie show called The Collective. It had Joey Janela's Spring Break. It was out in Ohio, I believe, or Chicago, somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. I don't really know that much about it.
I think it was Indiana. I think it was Indiana.
Indiana. There you go. Boom.
Yeah.
So it was a festival. They had a bunch of wrestlers there, a bunch of shows. And over the weekend, there were some spots that were shown on Twitter, on social media, that caused up a bit of a disturbance. And we got is wrestling, does funny equal money? Is wrestling supposed to be comedy? Is that for me? Is this for me? Is this for you? Yeah, for real, dude. Like what the yeah, dude, like what did we see, man? I saw a video of a wrestler, I don't know who he was, trying to force Marco Stunt's face around a fake penis. Around, as the people on the streets call it, a dildo, okay? Around like he was trying to make Marco Stunt suck on a dildo in the middle of the ring. To add to the Marco Stunt talk, you had him and Danhausen, who, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's in Ring of Honor.
Danhausen's awesome.
Danhausen's great. Yeah, he's funny.
Awesome.
Like, he's a comedy wrestler. It's the first time I've seen the tequila gimmick happen in a wrestling match. Apparently, he does it all the time. It's one of Danhausen's things. But what made it so freaking horrible and cringy was Marco Stunt, because he didn't really know how to pull it off, and that's why it looked so freaking bad. But I saw a lot of wrestling fans going after this kind of shit. And look, it ain't my style of wrestling. I don't like it that much, but I do enjoy comedy and wrestling from time to time. You're going to throw around a fake dick in the ring. That's not really my cup of tea, man. If you enjoy that shit, cool. You're going to dance tequila on the apron while fake kicking your opponents and some silly dance routine. Fucking fine. Go ahead. We all live through goddamn every dancer WWE has had. How many?
Worm.
Yeah,
The
dude.
Worm.
The Worm, boom, Fandango, all this shit. Like the corniest of the corny. They've done the worst slap. WWE has done the worst fucking slapstick, low-level comedy I've ever seen in my life. So before WWE fans and people who are inspired by WWE jump all over the indies for trying some different outside-the-box shit, if it ain't for you, it's fine, but it's for someone. Fucking obviously, people were there. People were digging it. So just as many people praise it on social media as I did hate on it. But I want to hear from you guys on this, John. I'll kick it to you first, man. Comedy and wrestling. Should it be something that has its own little genre and stay away from the rest of the indies? Or should it just be integrated across all forms of pro wrestling? And you as a fan get to pick what you like and what you don't like. Because, hey, look, before I kick it to you, yeah. Like, I watch shows with, my girl all the time, over the past 10 years. We've watched a million different shows. And most of the time, we both enjoy the show. But there's always some storylines in there that I just fucking don't want to see, that just cringe me, that I'm just like, do I really need to watch this shit? Like, what are they even talking about? The same thing with wrestling. John?
No, you nailed it right on the head.
Boom.
As long as it's not overflowing an entire show with it, it's fine. It's got its place for it. Listen, you like it, I may not like it, that's fine. I may like it, you may not, that's fine. It's got its place. Some guys, listen, like Danhausen,
John,
it. Yeah.
John, real quick, what the fuck is that scratching sound you got going on? When you talk, I just hear scratching. Toph, do you hear this shit?
And none of my end. Mm-mm.
No? I hear scratching. All right, go ahead. My bad to cut you off.
No,
We'll edit that.
Yeah, no problem. No, like Danhausen, that's it. That's his game. You know what you're getting when you see who's on the show. You see Danhausen, you see Marco Stunt, you see Faye Jackson, you see Joey Janela. You're not strangers to these guys and girls. So at some point, Danhausen's shit's going to just go completely off the rails. Same thing with Janela. Same thing with, Jackson, whoever. If that's not going to be for you, then don't go to the show.
Boom.
Okay? I mean, yeah, for every, I don't know who else was on, Orange Cassidy spot that you're going to love, you got to sit through the Marco Stunt spot. I'm not picking on Stunt specifically, but I'm just saying there's going to be good and bad.
We're picking on this kid because he ruined Danhausen's spot. It's the first time I've seen Danhausen's spot with Tequila. I'm being told I'm in this private chat with a bunch of wrestlers, and I'm being told that it's awesome that he does this and it's entertaining and people love it every time. But for some reason, Marco Stunt was cringe.
For the people that aren't for that in general, like I know a bunch of guys that hate the whole concept of Marco Stunt just in general, that, it's ridiculous. It's not, okay, if he's not for you, he's not for you. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. As long as you're not doing a 3-hour show of that shit. And even then, okay, I'm sure you'll find some niche of an audience that will love it, especially in these times. People are looking for a reason to get out. People are looking for a reason to do things. They'll probably jump all over it. But, listen, there's a time and place for everything, as much as I hated the Katie Vick angle, I know guys that loved it. As much as I couldn't stand Fandango, I know guys that love the fact that he beat Jericho at WrestleMania. And, it's Fandango 1, Jericho 0. It's like, okay. I think some of the stuff on BTE is cringe. And I know guys that sit there and get on their knees and open their mouths every Monday morning ready to take it. It's personal preference.
John, I found the culprit. It's your microphone rubbing on your hoodie.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. I found the culprit.
Sorry.
It's cool, bro. It's cool. I found the culprit, damn it. Toph, kick it to you, man. Kick it to you, my brother. Dude, this comedy wrestling stuff, we've heard Jim Cornette say it in the past, funny does not equal money. I've disagreed with him on numerous topics. Yeah, including this one. Funny absolutely equals money. There's obviously a niche for this. John just mentioned that they shouldn't have like 3 hours of the show, but I would think that I think they do have indie shows that are just full-blown comedy from start to finish, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a big fan of Grimm's Toy Show on YouTube, GTS Wrestling. They have a good mix of really cringe comedy wrestling because it's Grimm. He's super cringe and he knows it. And then they have like some serious wrestlers on that show. They do death matches. They do all kinds of stuff, but there's always this comedic goofy kind of underlamet to it. And I think there's a lot of that in all pro wrestling from basically, you know, when Vince McMahon took over. I mean, that's really when the entertainment value started. But let's hear your thoughts on the comedy wrestling, especially those clips that we saw over the weekend.
Yeah, John and I talked about this a long time ago. It was a while back, like it's been in like 2015, 2016. Comedy
I think
wrestling.
I think we did an episode on this on the old show too, by the way, because I think this is when Cornette was really rocking.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like a familiar topic. Comedy wrestling is tough because, like, you know, I love to laugh. You know me, you guys know me. I totally love memes, but you got to find a balance. You know, you got to find something that's funny, but not at the same time where it takes you out the show. To me, I think the GOAT of comedy is Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle was able to be goofy, but at no point did you ever not take him seriously, because you knew once the bell rang, he'd kick your ass. You know what I mean? You know, like the drinking milk stuff or the singing of Stone Cold, like that stuff's hilarious. But when the bell rang, he was Kurt Angle, and he made you choke. You know, he would make you tap out. Some of the stuff in the Attitude Era was like, you know, kind of over the top too. Like Al Snow with a head. Like that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Like the head gimmick was so stupid, but it was so over. Mae Young giving birth to a hand. Val Venus doing porno penis jokes in the windows that I didn't get until I was like 13 years old. I think the one that like went over my head when I was like a kid was when Val Venus was like, "I came, I saw, and I came again." I was like, "What the hell?" I totally didn't get that till I was like 15.
Your head would have exploded with Joe Gertner.
You know, so and then another one, like a lot of people shit on Marco Stunt, and like he's not really my cup of tea either. But like I look at Marco Stunt and I'm like, how is he any different from Spike Dudley though? Because Spike Dudley was kind of like, he used to get his ass kicked all the time. And Spike Dudley was with the Dudleys, and the Dudleys, they were silly too. Like, you know, the Dudleys would be like, you know, so it's tough. It's really tough. I'm a big Yano fan. You know, Yano the Sublime Thief in New Japan, and he's always doing like dumb stuff. He's always cheating and, you know, duct tape and stuff. Like it's rough. It's hard to tell. But I think I have like the same opinion as John. Like as long as it's not like on a 3-hour show, then, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, bitch about it. But the whole dildo thing, I did see that clip. I saw a clip of someone trying to like put a dildo down Marco Stunt's throat, and then the other clip I saw was they were dancing to the Macarena mid-match, like it was Dragon Gate or something like, no, Chikara or something like that. Some of that stuff is a little too goofy. Yeah, it's definitely a trend. There's comedy in all promotions. You know, I see it in Impact, WWE, AEW, even Ring of Honor has a little bit of comedy now. What's the dude's name? Joe Hendry. He's like a singer. He's like some American Idol singer when he comes out or something. I saw like that entrance Ring of Honor. I was like, this doesn't seem like something you'd see in Ring of Honor. But yeah, it's hard, you know, comedy's subjective. I know I'm not really answering your question because like John said, like there's people that find it cringe and there's people that just open their mouth and just find it like, you know, funny. Yeah, I do think that most of the stuff on BTE is for that BTE audience. Most of the stuff I don't find funny. There was 2 things that BTE did that I did find funny. Right before AEW became a thing, that thing where like Cody got possessed and he would just like do random WWE facts when he like rolled his eyes over. That was funny. That was funny. And then when the news about what's his name? Not Trick Daddy, Master P. When Master P bought that promotion, what promotion was that? The one up north. It's like
House of Glory.
Yeah. When he brought that promotion,
House of Glory.
Hog. Yeah, and then Cody just do like make him say, that was funny. That was funny. But yeah. The Marco Stunt stuff that's kind of you know. So, the comedy on NXT lately, the one that I thought was kind of like was the Robert Stone stuff, like the over-exaggerating, Shotzi runs over his leg week after week. To me, that was cringe. So, I didn't like that. To me was too main rosterish stuff. The stuff with what's his name, the big dude, I don't know his name, Big Domo, I don't know what's his WWE.
Killian Dane.
Yeah, the Killian Dane Rockstar Spud stuff, I don't like that. That's too main rosterish for me, because NXT has always been a little bit more not main rosterish, you know. But NXT has done some comedy stuff that I like. Like, I like the American Alpha, you know, where Gable would say ready, willing, and he wanted Jason Jordan to say Gable, and Jordan was like, no. I'm not saying it. Like, I like that. I love the Dexter Loomis stuff with the Undisputed Era, where like Roddy was afraid of Dexter and Kyle was like the psychiatrist, and they were sitting on the sofa. Like, I like the overselling of Dexter Loomis. I feel like Trevor Lee, aka Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes. He's sort of like on the so bad it's good. The to the moon. Like, I find that funny. He puts the hat on the thing. Yeah, I don't know if you guys notice. Every time he wins a match, he puts his hat back on. It's like he does all these crazy moves, and the hat is like in the same spot. So yeah, I like some of the comedy there, but I'm all over the place. It's tough, man. That's a hard answer, but I'm gonna go back to what John said all those years ago. To me, Kurt Angle's the GOAT. He's the GOAT of comedy because he could do goofy stuff, but his goofiness never took away from the fact that you knew that he could kick your ass at a moment's notice. What was that line you liked, John? Something about he's an idiot, but he's our idiot, or something like that.
He's an idiot, but he's our idiot.
Yeah,
and he's a dangerous idiot.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up, really.
Hell yeah, man. And look, dude, that was great. I want to kind of segue. We're going to go quick the rest of the way because I don't want to use too much time, but we're also going to just want to let you guys know, if you're watching this abbreviated version of this show, you can find the entire unedited version on Patreon. Right now it's patreon.com/PWP Nation. Check it out. It's going to go up soon. Probably be $1. I mean, I don't know, $1 to get the whole thing. I'm not going to make it expensive. I don't really care about that. But I would like to add tiers in the future, give away free shit, all that good stuff. We're going to have fun on Patreon. I promise you guys that. I'm out of my fucking mind. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm aware that I'm a little bit crazy. They got a little bit a crazy gene up there in the brain ski. And I say some insane shit to most people. However, there's rhyme and reason to it. And we're going to kind of dive into that now a little bit with how this kind of kicked off my Labor Day weekend with Jim Ross and the kind of controversy that went into his reaction to Anna Jay. He said something along the lines of, was that a wardrobe malfunction or am I just wishful thinking? Like, guys, look, okay, I got a lot of fucking heat for standing up for Jim Ross over Labor Day weekend, all right? A lot of heat. I got so much heat on that specific day that people still jump into my Twitter and say, oh, it's you again. It's you again saying some crazy shit, sticking up for the old guy, sticking up for the old creeper. Well, listen, motherfuckers, listen good. Because unlike most of these people on Twitter, I use people fucking loosely. I will come on to any kind of podcast any day of the week. I will turn on my phone and I will talk to you with my words when you can look into my eyes and I'll explain to you my thoughts in my head. I don't give a fuck about where your thoughts are, okay? And you guys will never respond to me with a fucking video like this because you're fucking cowards. And you hide behind pictures of Liv Morgan and Roman Reigns, and you guys think you're fucking hot shit because you're anonymous Twitter trolls, okay? That's all you are. That's all you're ever going to be. So from now on Twitter, zero tolerance policy from this guy. If you want to talk shit to me, fine, please. I will engage with anyone, any given time, talk all the shit you want. But if you're anonymous, if you can't even show your fucking face or give me your name or put a 5-second video to verify who the fuck you are, I ain't got no time for that. Man, I'll hit that block button. You say some stupid shit to me, I'll hit the report button. I don't care. You don't have no business saying anything if you're anonymous and won't show yourself. So Jim Ross got himself to a little bit more shit today that I stuck up for. I don't know if you guys saw this tweet, but it was essentially Jim Ross showing, he took a photo of a woman who was in his house cleaning his house for him, okay? She was putting glasses in a cabinet. So, of course, he takes a photo and explains how he's happy. I'm going to bring